So I am going to welcome everyone to January's session of Financial Wellness for Women. Today we have a technology speaker who is phenomenally qualified, and his handout alone, I think you could see, is going to be full of information in addition to what he shares with us over the next hour. I will let him introduce himself a little bit more. I just want to give one plug for next month. We always talk about what's coming up. So next month, the second Tuesday of every month is our Financial Wellness for Women group, 9:30 to 10:30. And next month, we're getting close to tax season. So we have a gal come in who has been doing seniors taxes in some way, shape, or form for quite a while. So we'll put a little bit of information out about that in the next newsletter and invite you to attend. So Rob Truman, I met at New Adventures in Learning down in Sun Lakes at the Chandler Gilbert Community College location, where that program, I don't know, Peggy, I might have learned about it from you. I've been attending and volunteering to present there for maybe 5 years, but it is lifelong learner heaven. Anything you want to learn about, they're usually offering anything from travel to hobbies to science to health to finance to technology. And that's where I ran into Rob. I think he was actually teaching one of the classes I was attending. And he is a wealth of information. So thank you, Rob, for agreeing to be with us. And I will let you take it away from here on your topic of online security for seniors.
All right. I'm going to do my best to keep this to an hour, but as you probably saw from the handout, there is a wealth of information, and like a lot of technology subjects, it changes hourly, just depending on what's going on. So let me go ahead and share this presentation out.
There's no.
Okay, the topic, internet security for seniors. A little bit about myself. Retired Navy Chief Petty Officer. Worked for Microsoft for a while, worked for Muscular Dystrophy in their IT department. Also worked for a while at Tucson VA Hospital. I am a member of the Computer Booters of Sun Lakes Computer User Group or Technology User Group. I also do various speaking requests from APCUG, which is another computer user group, but more nationwide. And of course, New Adventures in Learning. We're going to start this off talking about malware. And keep in mind, this is going to be a very top overview at about 80,000 feet of this subject. So, malware encompasses everything. So, viruses are malware, spam is malware, it all falls under this one category. Your best bet to be able to secure your life or your computer or what you do online is just becoming aware. Most malware will take advantages of security flaws in Windows and other software. So your number one job here is keeping your operating system, whether that's you're using a Mac or a Windows machine, keep it up to date, keep your programs updated. And I'm sure we've all seen these. These, I guarantee you, this phone number does not belong to Microsoft. And if you call, they're going to essentially break your computer and then fix it and charge you a few $100s to do it. Phishing is probably the most predominant danger currently. And phishing is literally that. Someone's hanging some bait out there for you to chomp down on. There are messages that try to trick you into providing sensitive information. I read some stats there recently that people who have problems with security, over 90% of them come in via email. These emails will often look like they're coming from a bank or a trusted source. And of course, they're going to want you to give away your information. And they probably are going to look real at first glance, but it's surprisingly easy for scammers to create convincing looking details. So here's a sample phishing mail, all right? And you can see up there, it says it's from Easy Pass Service Center. And on most email clients, you're going to see that it'll show you what the actual email address. Well, if you see an email address that has .ru at the end of it, that's from Russia.
Oh.
I don't think this company is operating out of Russia. So then here, you can also see down towards the end of it, it says the invoice can be downloaded here. Well, here is a link. The word here in this email is a link, but we don't really know where that link is going. Now, one trick that you can use is that if you hover your mouse over that link, then it will show you the actual hyperlink. And these are some standard country codes that you will see on email addresses. As I said, RU is Russia, Germany, DE, Japan, JP. So let's take a look at this phishing email. This is one that I got, or one similar to this, not too long ago. First of all, you're always going to see important subject lines on a phishing email. And let's face it, who's not going to be concerned if you have about your bank account? I'm sure if you look at this, you're going to find that Bank of American is not the same as Bank of America.
Mm-hmm.
Piece of cake. I can go up to images.google.com and I can probably download and throw any corporate logo I care to into a Word document or an email. Finding logos to make a document look legit is really extremely easy. And definitely do not follow links from this type of email. What you're going to find is, and what I recommend, okay, if you get something, say, from Bank of America, Chase, somebody or some company that you actually do business with, then don't click on a link in the email. Go to your browser, type in the web address or type in their address. That way you are assured to go to the correct website. I know it takes an extra second or two, but it can save you a lot of heartache. So Account issues emails take the user to dummy login pages where the hacker conveniently and easily grabs login credentials and therefore bank account, credit card numbers, and more. If you, chase.com, that is a good address, okay? But this hyperlink would actually take you to my website. This is one of my favorites that popped in my email one day. So first of all, we see up here, it says very urgent. You know, I need to take action. And it's coming from Japan. I don't know a whole lot of people in Japan. So, and here's some stuff that really sticks out. I didn't know, it's from Custom Broader Protection Homeland Security. Never heard of that. You can tell that just their command of the English language is, so they've obviously used a translator, some sort of translation software. Fee has been cut down. Not too sure that most government officials are going to be putting this into an email or use the phrase bear it in mind. And here's my favorite. I just didn't know that we actually had a Treasury Department. Yeah, so that I was, happy to find that out. "86% of email attacks don't involve malware. What they rely on is the user to click on something in that email that will compromise them. Apple is the #1 imitated company in phishing scams. And right now, we're seeing just a lot of COVID-19 phishing emails. And especially now that since people are able to start getting vaccines, okay? Being a well-informed user is your best defense, without a doubt. So, before we go into the next section, if there's any questions, I'm happy to answer them, or we can wait till we're at the end. Whatever you ladies would like to do, I'm good with.
We should wait till the end, I think.
Okay, that's fine. All right. So, passwords. This is a subject everyone hates. I mean, not that they hate passwords, just they hate using them. I'm going to try and show you some tricks here to make this a little bit easier for you. So, what makes a good password? Longer is always better. Use special characters and numbers. You want them difficult for someone else to guess. So, don't make a password that relates to you. So I know you've heard this before. Shouldn't contain my address, anything about my names, my kids, my pets, so forth and so on. But yet you want it easy for you to remember. So how do we do that? But before we go there, here's some of the top 20 worst passwords of 2020. Yeah, 111111, just not good. So how do you remember your passwords? First of all, I highly recommend a password manager. It just makes your life easy. And a password manager, basically, the way they work is you have a master password, that is what the only password you really need to remember. And what a password manager is essentially a cloud stored database behind a secure firewall that will store all your passwords for all your other sites. These are just some of the more common companies out there. I personally use Bitwarden. I've used LastPass in previously. I like Bitwarden. It works for me, but you know, that's your choice. But I do, and Bitwarden is free. LastPass is free. Most of these are free for personal use. Something that, and it's not so much recently, but well, people are starting to realize that using a passphrase is even better than a password, and they're a lot easier to remember. So the main use of a passphrase, because they're longer than a password, they can still be remembered. And instead of a password manager, and you can actually just use these and not use a password manager. That's perfectly fine. Best suggestions, though, is don't use the same credentials for all your websites. So for instance, I'm going to use the password phrase, so with iPhone, such as iPhone. If I just have iPhone as my password, it will take 0.04 seconds for a machine to hack. Now, and what a lot of people don't stop to think about, I'm not, for instance, I'm not worried about someone else hacking my password. Where my concern starts to come in is how long would it take a computer to break my password? So we go on to the next. So, all right, so I change it to iPhone made by Apple. That would take 15 days for a computer to crack. Now, if I throw in some upper and lowercase letters, a special character, a number, now iPhone made by Apple 2 would take 4 years to crack. You're probably good with that, you know. And of course, the other thing about passwords is you need to change them occasionally. This is one of the links that I sent to you ladies on the handout. It's a random passphrase generator. I use this personally. You can kind of customize and generate a passphrase. So, which can be, I think, minimum of 3 words, but they're words that are not going to be attached to you personally. This is another fun site. So you can see, like, if we go back one, all right. So I took generated this passphrase. Then I went to this website, again on your handout, and it'll tell me how secure it is. So this has 21, I'm using both lower and uppercase characters, and it will take 2 million years for a machine to crack that. All right, antiviruses. And we're going to talk about securing your computer and software. So limiting your computer's vulnerability is the goal here. You can protect your computer by running antivirus or anti-malware software. So, and even if you don't see any signs of malware, it doesn't mean it's not there. There's a lot of different products out there on the market. Okay, my choice is Bitdefender, but again, they're all good products. It just depends on, of course, price and how easy they are to use, and actually it's more of a preference than anything else. So what software should I use? First of all, free versus paid. Price is great. Generally speaking, though, free antivirus software only protects against antivirus. Does not protect against all types of malware. So it's a very targeted protection. They're very good at doing what they do. Now, one of the other things, if you decide you're going to use a free service or a free piece of software, you may want to check to be sure, because a lot of the free products will not automatically scan your system in the background. In other words, you will need to go in there and generate that scan on a reoccurring basis. So, but like I said, so difference between antivirus and internet security software. Antivirus software provides basic level protection for your system. Internet security or security suites expands on the capabilities such as scanning files, software activity monitoring, and a vulnerability search with features tailored for internet use. I find what I'm going to say next a little bit of an oxymoron, is that my antivirus software, because I buy it like on a 3-year contract, runs me about $3 or $4 a month. And when I talk to people, they have no problem spending $15 a month for Netflix, but the concept of spending $3 or $4 a month for security just they never make that connection. So take that for whatever it's worth. So 4 basic levels of antivirus products. You have free, of course, then you have a paid antivirus. Then it goes up to suites, and then of course premium suites. And as you move up this ladder, you typically pay more and get more features, such as identity theft protection, firewalls, parental controls, and system performance tools. The good thing is that if you do decide to go with a paid service, then they almost all come with trials. So you get to try it out and see how it meshes with your machine and how things are working for you. Okay, browser. A lot of different threats out there. Viruses, malware, spyware, but your browser has a lot of built-in features. And every time these companies update their browsers, there's even more out there. But all browsers are not created equal. Here's a list of probably the most popular browsers and their security and privacy rating. Now, keep in mind, security and privacy, not the same thing. Okay, so, and you can see from this list, and you can kind of see where yours falls there, or which ones you're using the most. If you've never heard of some of these, the ones that I recommend are Brave, Firefox, Mozilla Firefox, of course, Google Chrome, and the new Microsoft Edge is actually pretty good. And keep in mind that Microsoft Edge, Google Chrome, and Browser and Brave are all built on the same technology. And you're not limited to just using one browser. Install a different browser for different types of sites. So if I have one browser that I just use for banking, or and online purchases, to where I'm dealing with that type of security exposure. I use another browser just for general, surfing the internet. HTTPS. When at all possible, you want to be sure that you're going to the HTTPS version of the website instead of HTTP. The S stands for security. And definitely do not enter any type of sensitive information if the website you're on does not display HTTPS. That's a little bit of a tongue twister. All right, we're down to security tips. So always double check the URL of your banking site, social networking site, and email site before you log in. Okay, be sure you're going to the right place. Type in the URL by hand and try never to follow links from an email. Always check that you're at the HTTPS site instead of the less secure HTTP. And most browsers now include a color change on the left side of the location bar to indicate that the site has been verified as legitimate. Google has a good website. Again, this URL is in your handout that you can check and see. It will let you know if that site has hosted any malware in the past 90 days. Email tracking. This really not dangerous, but it's undesirable because it lets the sender of the email know that you opened the email and therefore it's a good email address. So what happens is they will embed a transparent 1 pixel by 1 pixel image in the email, which will have some code attached to it. So when that email or attachment is opened, it sends information back to the sender that this email has been opened, which lets that sender know this is a valid email address. And so now I can put this email address onto my list of email addresses that I'm going to sell. Request betray, it tells them about the opening time, the location, and the type of device it's being opened on. So for those of you who are using Gmail and this setting is probably in almost all email clients. You can go into your settings and click to not automatically open images. Now, it makes your emails a little bit ugly, but, so you need to weigh that, and then each email that you get will have a little link at the top, show images. And you can click on that, see the images only from emails that you know where they're coming from. Solution, block your emails from automatically loading images. Browser tips. Here's some settings that you can set in your browsers. Delete all cookies on close. So whenever you close your browser, it wipes it. And same thing with your history. Now, does that mean the next time you go to that site, you're going to have to re-enter your credentials? Yes. Again, you need to weigh the risk. Don't open images by default. Disable JavaScript in the settings. Enable pop-up blocking. Turn on automatic updates, which on most browsers, those are turned on by default. Enable do not track. use incognito or private browsing for sensitive sites. So all functions within your browser. Now, if you're using Chrome, Firefox, you know, the new Edge, you can add plugins to help with some of these tools, these functions. Okay, and they're called extensions. Probably more than what this we're designed to talk about today, but I would, if you want more information about extensions, drop me an email. I'll try and send you some that I think work really well, but I use one to get rid of pop-ups and ads that I don't think I've seen ads in years. Social media. Use caution when you click links. Know what you've posted about yourself. Don't trust that the message really is from who it says it's from. Always type the address in of your social networking site. Don't let your Facebook or Twitter or any of these social networks scan your address book. Everything you post to the internet is permanent. It's there forever. Be careful about installing extras and be selective on who you select as friends. Manage your privacy settings. You want to view or change your privacy security settings, you can go to the National Cybersecurity Alliance, and it provides, which again, this email is in the handout, and it will provide a list of direct links to update your privacy settings to basically over 80 popular devices and online services. And these will range from social networks, web browsers, e-commerce, so forth and so on. And this is probably the thing that most people do not do. I mean, if you probably ask the typical average Facebook user, they probably couldn't tell you where their privacy settings are located. Phone scams, even though it has little or nothing to do with computers. Bottom line, give them nothing. Your best defense is to say absolutely nothing. Things you don't want to do. Don't confirm your name. Don't say yes to anything. Don't verify your address and don't do surveys. Best tactic, just hang up. Here's the thing, IRS is not going to call you. Microsoft is not monitoring your computer and will not call you offering to help. They have better things to do with their time. Robocalls only say hello once or just hang up. Never enter a star code in your phone from prompting by someone on the other end of the line. I want to mention just one other thing, okay, about saying hello once. Most robocall softwares, they don't even kick in till they hear someone speak twice. So, and it's human nature. You pick up your phone, you say hello, it's silence. So you say hello again, boom, now the robocall starts. Only say it once. Okay, we are going to be ready for questions here. This is my website. And of course, you have my email address, or you should have. On my website, what I do, and you can go up there and sign up for my on my email list. And every week I send out emails related to technology. And these are types of articles that are focused on seniors and a variety or wide range of technical subjects. If you want to become a part of that email list, I encourage you to join, or you don't have to, and you can just go to the website and see what articles have been posted. All right, I'm going to open this up to questions, and I'm going to turn off the share, and we can go from there.
I have a question about browsers.
Yes.
When you said you can use different browsers, if I had an original Google, and then I went to Google, downloaded Google Chrome, how do I get rid of the first one?
Okay, well, first of all, if you're referring to Microsoft Edge or Microsoft Internet Explorer, you can't get rid of that one.
Okay, I have a Mac, so
Okay,
so I have Safari.
so it came with Safari.
Right.
Not sure you can uninstall Safari.
Okay. Is Google, but Google is a browser? Is that a browser? Am I
Google
correct on
Chrome.
that?
Yep, Google
Okay.
Chrome is a browser. Mozilla Firefox is a browser.
Okay.
Both of those you can install on a Mac. Okay.
Okay.
And there's some others, you know. Originally, Apple was very strict about only letting its users use their browser. That has kind of loosened up quite a bit here over the past couple of years.
Okay.
Okay.
I have a
But if I
question
had an
about,
earlier generation of Google, I'm sorry, originally there was Google and then there's Google Chrome. What happens to the original Google?
Well, let's kind of, Google is a company, okay?
Mhm.
Their original product was a search engine,
Mhm.
okay?
Not a browser.
The browser has always been Google Chrome,
Oh, okay. Thank you.
okay?
Thanks. Sorry.
No problem.
I have a question. I don't quite understand what the advantage is or the risk is of not using, like when you say use one browser for online shopping versus another one for just regular, social
Okay.
media.
All right, let me try and
I
clarify that.
understand what is the advantage or what are you risking if you don't do that, or what's it, why are you saying that?
Google tracks you,
Yeah.
okay, period, okay? That's same thing, Microsoft tracks your usage, okay? The more extensions you have installed on a browser, the greater your risk exposure, okay? So I use Brave, which is when they don't track your usage. It's extremely secure, and I don't have any extensions installed on that browser, and that's the one I use to connect to my bank. Again, these are just more habits that I've developed over the years. So it's not that any individual browser is bad. It's more on what you decide to use it for. Okay. I use Google Chrome and I have a bunch of different extensions installed on it. And that's the one I just use for general, stuff, surfing the net. Okay. But for sites that I'm a little bit more concerned about my security, I don't want those extensions on there. All I want is a very secure browser.
What do you mean by extension, Rob?
Extensions are little plugins that you can add to your browser.
Example?
Okay, using these for quite a few years. So, for instance, my browser to schedule meetings. So they're little add-on pieces of software to the browser that expand the functionality of the browser.
don't you have to be asked to do that though? To add the extension?
Well, they're not going to do it
Right.
automatically. So you have to, it's something you physically need to install to your browser. But when I'm going to banking sites, I don't want to have to worry about that. So I just have one browser set aside, and they don't, so it used to be that storage space was so expensive and critical. Well, that's not the case anymore. I can have multiple programs installed on my machine and still not have a problem with that. Again, it becomes a personal choice.
I have a question about, I use Mac, Apple.
Sure.
So my question is this, I use the mail function of Apple to look at my email.
Okay.
And I only look at my cox.net email on that function. So when I open up that mail program on Apple, and you have your mailbox open, and you see the list of emails coming in, there's a preview of the first one. There's a preview of the one that's selected. If I don't click on it to actually open it, but I just look at the preview and I arrow down and look at the previews, am I actually opening the email or not?
Looking at a preview of an email, not as primarily what you want to avoid is clicking on links in
Right,
email.
right. But I realize that
open the
just
email.
the preview. Yeah, like you said, don't open.
Yeah, it's just having the preview open is it's not really a risk. Okay, if I had to choose between the two, I would say I would prefer not to have the preview and just go off the subject line. I mean, what most experts will tell you, if you don't know who the email's coming from, then don't open it. That's,
So I use my Gmail on the internet. I don't use that. I didn't plug it into my other mail. So I have two accounts, but I don't use my Gmail.
Right.
And I don't have the preview there. So I just wondered on the Apple.
Yeah.
Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
When I use Microsoft, when I use the Chrome, it wants to store my passwords. Is that okay to do?
No.
No?
No.
Save the passwords.
Storing passwords in a browser,
Yeah.
never a good idea.
Okay.
Okay, only because it's an added function to the browser. Not, so use a password manager, get your passwords out of your browser. Someone hacking into your machine, it's a lot easier for them to, and the other thing is that the passwords stored in your browser do not get entered encrypted they're not encrypted in your browser.
Okay.
When you use a password manager, all that information is encrypted.
So how do you
So
get
that's the big,
how do you get the password manager? You just download it, or
yeah.
okay.
So you can go to LastPass, Bitwarden, whichever one you want to, most of them are free for personal use.
Okay.
And they have them available for both, Mac and Windows. I know people that just use an Excel spreadsheet. Okay. If that's, what you want to do, that's fine. I mean, there is no right or wrong answer here. It just depends on the level of security you're looking to, incorporate.
I have a
But if I
question.
have a choice, I'm not going to rely on my browser to store my passwords.
Okay.
I have a question about this Excel. That's what I do. I just have a spreadsheet where I keep
Yeah.
with a code, like so-and-so's first letters or something. I don't actually say the word. What is the risk of having your passwords on a spreadsheet? Could somebody get into your computer and open that?
Of course, sure. Someone could. Okay. I mean, now, again, I think it's important to analyze your own personal risk. Okay. Most hackers are after the big payday. Okay. So what I do on the computer, I'm not probably a huge target. Okay. And unless you're to whereas companies, corporations, they are a huge target because they can get more information in one simple hack than hacking someone's personal computer. That's not to say you shouldn't be careful with your information, but also keeping, kind of analyze your own personal, risk exposure. Okay. Yeah, could someone hack into your computer? Sure. How likely is it? I don't know. So, but the other thing is we don't walk outside of our house and leave the front door open. So, kind of take that, with a grain of salt there. But now, depending if you use cloud storage, then there's, of course, personal vaults that you can use. I know Google Docs has one. I know Microsoft OneDrive has a personal vault that requires two password validation or two-factor authentication to get into it. So there's ways to, secure that down too.
Could you go into the detail of the password manager? I've often wondered if I use that and I have one master password, what happens if later on I don't want to use that company anymore? How do I get to my accounts?
Okay, most of these, well, first of all, they're time consuming setting up. You got to figure how many passwords and how many sites do you have passwords for, okay? So that, extrapolate that out. Second of all, almost everyone I've ever seen has the ability to export and import. So in Marge's case, she has all this stuff on a spreadsheet. She could start using a password manager and most likely import that spreadsheet and populate the password manager. So if you decide that, okay, because at some point I quit using LastPass and went over to Bitdefender. And what I did is I exported all my passwords and usernames into a spreadsheet, went up, canceled my LastPass account, and then imported everything into Bitdefender.
So the passwords that you establish yourself are still in effect?
Yes.
Well, then what's the advantage of it?
Storage, ease of access, because what a password manager does, so I go to a website. I go to, whatever the website may be, it might be my Gmail account, okay? Password manager recognizes this is a site that I've logged in before, will automatically fill in my username and password, boom, click, enter.
So when I'm in Starbucks and my card isn't working and they just tell me to go to my account and I don't know what my password is because I'm in Starbucks, how does Passmaster work then, or whatever it's called?
Well, it will do the same thing that it would do on your computer, okay? On your phone, because you can also use it on mobile devices as well. You can use it on any device you own, for most, I would say.
So I would just put in the master password and it would know.
Nope, you don't even have to use master password. You would have the app on your phone. You're already logged into that, okay, which is the only time you use your master password. You're on a site on your phone, your tablet, your laptop, your desktop. It recognizes the site because you've been there before and you've registered that site with the password manager. It's going to fill in your credentials.
So when I reach that part of Starbucks where I put in my password, what happens?
It fills it in for you.
Oh, it just, all of a sudden something starts typing.
Well, it just populates.
Same thing, yeah. Okay, now what about those sites that you have to change your password periodically?
That you're just going, there's nothing you can do about that. Now, also what's included in most password managers are password generators. So they will help you generate secure passwords.
But then I would have to remember them. No,
No.
I
No,
would not
because
have
they're
to.
in a password manager. That's the whole purpose of the
Okay, got it,
password
okay.
manager is not having to remember your passwords
Gotcha, okay,
and only having to remember one password.
okay, thank you.
My question on the password managers is, I used LastPass, started about 6 months ago. It did ask me to put an extension in. Do I have to do that? I mean, you talked about extensions not being good, so I just wonder now.
It's
should I
not that
be
they're
using-
not good. I mean, because they do add functionality to the browser. Now, the browser that I use for my bank, I have my password manager extension installed on that, but it's the only extension I have installed on that.
Okay.
Okay. So
Yep.
it just, yes, there's always a line between security and convenience. And, you know, each individual person needs to draw that line.
Okay.
So what you're saying is when it comes time to change, if you're a control freak, right, and you control your own passwords, as opposed to having the manager tell you what your new strong password should be. So you say, no, I don't want that one that has 20 letters and all this other stuff.
Right.
And I still
Yeah.
type in my own and create my own. So 6 months down the line, when I go to change it, how do I tell the password manager that I've changed it for, let's say, Starbucks or Bank of America
Okay.
or Chase or whatever?
So you're on a website and it's forcing you to change a password. Okay.
Right.
Now keep the two things separate. All right.
Right.
I'm on a website and I have a password manager. So at that point, I go into my password manager, generate a new password that I like, or I come up with a password manager that I like. I change it on the website, and I also change it in my password manager for future reference. Think of the password manager as a interactive vault, you know, a vault of all my credentials. It's really all it is.
So a
It's kind of
crummy
like having
password.
a safe up in the cloud.
So if I have a crummy password and I'm using password manager, I'm no more secure. Is that correct?
Probably not, no. With the exception that you don't have to remember it. It's not going to make you more secure. Okay, don't, you know, because actually there's nothing that can make you more secure. Okay, there's
as if you
tools
know
that
me.
can help you, but that's really where it stops. I mean, if you make the choice that this is what, if I make the choice that I'm going to use the password, nothing in the world can make that more secure until I make the choice not to use it.
Okay,
Anything else? Yes.
Yeah, when
I
you
have
say
a question.
extensions, I have a question. I'm sorry. I have bookmarks on my Chrome. Is that an extension? Should I not
No,
use
that's
it?
not an extension.
Okay.
I didn't
No.
hear that. What?
What you want to do for extensions, and I think for Chrome, it's you go to Web Store or something of that nature, and there's thousands of different extensions, you know, ranging from everything for OneNote to whatever the case may be, you know, so.
So the
Diane, you
bookmarks-
got a question?
My question was, you mentioned OneDrive. Do you suggest using that as backup? And you
I
mentioned
do.
OneDrive personal. You do use OneDrive?
Yeah, primarily because I subscribe to 365,
Yes.
and they
I
give
do
me a
too.
terabyte, and that's a whole lot of
Yes.
space. So yeah, I definitely use it. Now, I don't do traditional backups. Okay, because I don't have that much software installed on my machine. You know,
I have
other
my
than
photos. That's the biggest thing for me is
okay.
all my
So
photos.
yeah, difference between doing, say, system backups and just having a alternate copy of my files, photos, music, you know, somewhere else. That I highly recommend. Okay, because if equipment fails,
Yeah.
you know, if we ever owned a car, we know stuff breaks down. Well, these computers break down, you know,
So
so
you use
want
you use OneDrive for that? You mentioned OneDrive Personal Vault. Do you use that?
One personal vault is part of OneDrive. Okay, so you can, and the only thing, what the personal drive on OneDrive is it's a folder that requires two-factor authentication. And yes, I do.
Okay.
And in fact, I keep a backup. I'll download everything I have in my password manager and onto a spreadsheet, and I keep a backup of that in my vault.
All right. Do you do backups other places than in the cloud? Do you have a separate
Well,
drive?
I use Google Drive depending on what I'm doing. There's
Yeah.
sometimes sharing information with other people is easier on Google Drive, or they have a Google account, they don't have a Microsoft account, so I just, you know, it's kind of a 6 of one, half a dozen of another. The other thing I'll mention about password managers before and in case no one is aware of this, we're all going to die someday.
Oh, you had
Okay.
mentioned that.
Having a password manager makes it very easy as a estate management tool to you know, so the people who are left after we are no longer here will not go through a living hell trying to figure out what your passwords are and what accounts you have set up. So there's that aspect of this as well. Okay, anything? I can do this all day, so you guys let me know.
Hey, one more question along that way, and maybe I missed it. Windows Defender, I've had, you know, protection on the computer security. I've had Norton, and
Right.
it just bogged down my computer. I had so many problems with it. What about just using Windows Defender? I suppose that isn't enough.
No, you know, and again, you have to, it depends. Now, see, I probably do a lot more dangerous stuff on my computer than you do. So I have no problem spending $3 or $4 a month for that. If you're going to use what comes with Windows, then I recommend using Windows Defender and Malwarebytes.
Malwarebytes, okay, yeah.
They're both free. You just need to remember to run Malwarebytes on occasion.
Okay. I'm familiar with that. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Can I ask a question that's totally different? Okay, that you haven't really touched it. It has to do with iPhones security.
Yes.
I read a few books about how apps track you, and I've gotten really paranoid. And my question is, whenever I see a free app, I always get very suspicious of that. You know, the ultimate reason they're doing it is to harvest my information. And I'm wondering if you can either confirm or eliminate my idea that free apps are more dangerous than an app that you might pay for. Or just, you know, I'm trying to avoid people harvesting my information.
Well, no, I get that. So yes and no. Okay, I mean it's hard to make it. You know, I would say your risk is higher using free applications. Okay. On the other hand, there are free applications out there from, say, large software companies that are there done as a convenience, you know, for their users. Okay, so it's not always just that black and white. Okay, but I would say that there's always going to be a risk, you know, and what I recommend you do is, and I think this goes for just about anything that you're going to do technology-wise, is do a search and use the word review at the end of it. So if I'm thinking about an app, I'm going to type that app's name, space, review, you know, and I'm going to probably get all kinds of personal experiences of other people who've used that app or other companies that have evaluated that app. So that's kind of where I start with my research cycle, you know, before I install something.
Okay. Very helpful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for all the great questions, everyone. Rob, this was wonderful. I had forewarned Rob that we might need to invite him back again because I knew we would run out of time with our questions. So if you have thoughts on that, ladies, let me know. I did want to end though, Rob, with, you know, you have I love your website name, Geezer Tech AZ. So first thought in my mind is, do you help people with any of these issues? So do you have services that we should know about? If we can end with that, that would be great.
No, I do, you know, and like I say, I don't have a price chart. I pretty much leave it up to the user. If you feel like I've done some sort of value, or you know, then make a donation, you know, I mean, and so usually that ends up being for most people, because if I can't fix your problem, I'm going to tell you up front, and I'm going to send you somewhere else. And you know, and I think most times it might run around $30 for an hour. So that's,
and it's a variety of things, just like you talked about in the handout.
Yeah, and I don't, you know, I'm not doing this to make money, you know. I mean, right now I'm stuck at home. I'm having a problem spending the money I got. So, you know, but I know I like doing it to help people, and I know some people don't want to take charity, so it's just kind of that symbiotic relationship.
Okay, well, thank you. That's great to know. We very much appreciate your time. Thank you so much for being with us.